Hello guys, so today we're going to be copying this iOS keypad design and we're going to be doing it using Flutter. So first of all, I'm going to define a controller for the input field, and I'll just name it text field. Then after that, we're going to create a widget function for the input field. Then it just returns a container there. Inside the container, I'm going to put a child for the text form field, and then for that text form field, that controller, or the controller basically, will be that text field, as you will see just now. So once I do this, then reload, it won't show because in the build function I have to put or reference that input field. If I reload, you see there it is with that grayish color. I put the grayish color so that you can see exactly what will be coming out before we then make it look nice, maybe further. But that's how it comes out. So now I'm just going to be putting some static height there, trying to make it a bit bigger, maybe cover at least 25% of that screen, so that we can manage to really show it, or show the full thing right there. And then after we do this, I think this will be all. Okay, so now I have put this I've put these attributes to actually put the text towards the center, text of the text form field towards the center, and just make it bold, those font styles. Next off, we are going to be looking at the grid view. So the grid view basically, as you saw from that picture, it contains numbers from 1 to 9. Then it also contains extra numbers be underneath, like the backspace and also something else. So we're going to be focusing in on that. And now we are going to create that grid view, and the grid view will have three columns. So cross axis count is obviously 3, because we want to fit 3 keypads or key fields within the screen, or the width of the screen. Then I'm just going to put padding horizontal so that it doesn't touch the edges of the screen. Then after doing this, the child will be the key field. So basically I'll just put another function there which is called key field, and key field basically is the circle which has the number and the text inside it. So that's just basically it. So I'm going to define a fixed width. Then decoration, I'm going to make sure it also covers just as a circle. Then after we do this, I think you'll see that it will come out really nicely. Okay, so I'm going to put the grid view there. Then once I put the grid view, it won't show here because I haven't put any information inside the key field. But the moment I do that, I'll put just 2 text fields there, one with the number, then the other one with the letters, and then you will see exactly what will come out. Okay, so I'm going to try and define the different styles for these text fields. because basically they are different. The number is obviously bigger and more bold, but the letters are a bit more smaller, so just so that they can fit. As you can see it there, it's really small. If I put 2, you see it will also show the numbers there, just like that. But I'll try and increase the size so that you can really clearly see like that. So basically our grid view is working, but now we just need to make sure we kind of put all the keys there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure key field takes certain parameters of the number and the letters. Then in my grid view function, I'm going to just send those texts or those numbers and letters from there, right? So that it really works out nice. Here I just call my variable num, but num is also it's also a type, so you have to be wary of that. You can try and make sure you just differentiate it and maybe say something else different. But in this case it will work because it will take the local variable for num, so it will take that variable. But now here I'm just making sure I change these numbers for the different fields. You can do this in different ways. You can obviously inside your grid view, instead of saying grid view.count, you can make it sort of a list, such that you just put these keys in a list, then you can just edit them from there. But I did this particularly because there's some things like for the hash field and for the DAO field as well that I'll need to show you. So I would prefer to do this, just to manually put them individually so that you can really reference them and make them come out nicely. Okay, so as you can see, after I've reloaded, you can see now it's starting to take shape, and it almost looks the same if you really check it out there. So I think it's starting to look the same. Obviously I'll try my best to kind of edit and make sure the things just come out nicely. There are a few things that you can hack away in this example, like putting a scroll view so that it doesn't exceed, and also putting background, as I'm doing right now. As you can see, the background covers a lot of space, and the text or the content isn't centered to that container. So I'll have to center that content to the container, and once I do that, you see it will come out nicely in the center like that. Then I'll have to make sure that the circle is really a circle, and also create some space between the numbers. So I'll just do that. So to create the space, I'll just say padding for each key field .all, like all the sides, or the margin rather, is 10, or let's say 5, and you'll see that it will come out nicely. They are now separate, right? So yeah, that looks pretty nice there, and it looks pretty much the same as what we had with that. So basically now what we now need to do is we are now trying to focus on just maybe putting a different style, so that when we then press these key fields, you can then see the text. So for the actions, I'll wrap each key field with inkwell. Then I'll reference a function called on number tapped. I'll just put it there, on number tapped, and when each number is tapped, the text of the text field should add, or rather should increase with the number which has been tapped. So as you can see, once I do this, you see that when I press, each time I press, it will just append the current text with the number that I would have pressed. So it's working pretty well, but obviously now there's no way to delete because there's no backspace button from that. So the two buttons we have left now are the backspace buttons and the dial button. I'll start with the backspace button so that you can clearly see, or just make sure the margin at the bottom is a bit lesser so that you can clearly see us deleting these numbers. So I'll reference a function called backspace, then I'll just put it there, backspace as well. Backspace basically just returns an icon for the backspace. I think it's there in the icon library, an icon called backspace. So I'll just use that. Then the functionality, I'll just wrap that backspace with an inkwell as well. You can see there it is, but I'll just make sure that the padding at the bottom does not interfere there. So instead of symmetric for the grid view, I'll just say only, so that I reference individual sides, right? So, and just leave out the bottom part. So there it is. Okay, so I'll just make sure it comes out nicely. Maybe wrap it with an align, then align it to the right, and just try and make sure it just comes out nicely without necessarily affecting the other key fields there. Okay, so I'll wrap this backspace in an inkwell, then I'll just reference, maybe say on cancel text. Then once I do this, that function basically is removing the last entered number. So basically I'll say the text, then just take the substring of the first character and the character before the last one in terms of index. So that will be the new value. So in this case, as you can see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I delete, you can see it will remove the last value. Then here I'll just make sure that if the text field is empty, it doesn't really respond to that backspace button, so that it doesn't return an error there. Okay, so we are done with that backspace button. I think it's working nicely. Now we need the dial pad or the dial field. But the thing is, the dial field is in the same line with the backspace field. So one of the things that we might need to do here, just before I go there, here I'm just going to make sure that if the text field doesn't have anything, it will disappear. That's the current design of the iOS, the current iOS design. So it won't be there when the text field is empty, but when the text field has something, it will then appear. In this case, it won't appear simply because I'm not referencing it inside the set state, because now it's keeping a state and it has to track that state. So instead of just directly referencing the text field, I'll say set state, and as you can see, it will come out. But on the cancel as well, I need to set the state there so that it works nicely. Then when I do that, you see that it will work perfectly. So right, it appeared and it's gone. So that works pretty well, and that's the current design, iOS design for the keypad. Okay, so you can see it's working pretty well, but as I was saying, now we need to create that dial field. Now we need to create that dial field, but the dial field is in the same line with the backspace. So one thing that I might need to do here is just maybe put 3 other fields there, then create a blank field for the other one, create a dial field for the other one, then put the backspace on the other one. This is because I just want them to be in the same line with each other, rather than for me to kind of experiment with that. So I'll put them in that grid view. Then I'll just copy this key field so that I can reference the blank field there. The blank field basically is returning nothing, and also doesn't have any response in terms of the in terms of when I press the button. Okay, so the dial field has a color of green. As you can see, it will be at the center like that. So you can see it's coming out nicely, but the backspace again doesn't really have the correct dimensions as with the others, but I'll edit that just now. But before I do that, I'm just going to make sure that this dial field comes out nicely. Maybe change the color to white. Also change the background. The background is a bit lighter on the original design, but you know, it still works. I guess you would have known the concept by now, so this works pretty well. That blank field, I need to just make it white, so I'll just copy this, create another circle, but this time that circle doesn't have anything and it's white. Basically it doesn't return anything, so in this case it will just create an error, but on the original code, which is linked in the description, you see that I removed that. So for the backspace as well, I just need to kind of put those circles there, but without any background color, so that you know they are just in the same kind of line there. So I'll remove the color green. Then as you can see, it's now kind of in the same line, so they are moving along in the same line with the other fields. And this works well now when you now want to kind of do every other thing there. So me just experimenting with the colors there, and yeah, I think as you can see, this works pretty well. Those hashtag and the hashtag and star fields, in this case I chose to kind of just create individual. You can leave them like that, but I chose to create individual fields for them because they don't have letters, they just have the key field by themselves. But the main challenge with that is those key fields sometimes, especially with this font, the star, as you can see, the star is a bit, it's up a bit. There I just removed the border so that you can clearly see the text field. It now comes out just exactly as the iOS design. So for that star and dash field, as I was saying, I'm just going to create individual fields for them. But basically this is because I just want to make sure that it just returns the field at the center. There are many ways you can do this without necessarily creating like different widgets for them. There are many ways you can actually do this, but in this case I just want to kind of show you something that you can appreciate and then that you can use for the meantime. So I'm done with the star field. Now I'm doing the hash field, and yeah, as you can see, it comes out nicely. I'm just going to edit the font there so that it comes out nicely as well. So you can see that the hash field is there. The star field is not necessarily at the center, but I mean, these are things you can experiment with the font. If you change the font or change different styles, you see that it will work out nicely. So now let's test for the final time. This should be the end of the tutorial.